In this exercise, we will cut the reference into pieces and draw each piece separately over the next 9 videos. This method helps identify mistakes and improve skills in shading and proportion. Following this series, I will take these pieces and show you how I use them as building blocks to create new expressive works. Grab this reference from the description below and let's get started. I'm getting some of my graphite powder ready here with my little sanding block and just painting it on quite loosely and spreading it all over the surface pretty much of this little piece of the puzzle. Using this graphite powder as the beginning of the drawing is a way of getting around not using outlines to create my drawing, but instead of using outlines, I just use a light shade to get an idea of where the light and the darks are in this picture and getting it all placed in. And I'm just putting in where I see the darkest bits, even though I'm gonna come in a little bit in a minute with a PanPastel sponge and just darken it down even further. But this just gives me an outline of where I want the PanPastel to come in. I find the graphite dust is very easy to erase as well, so I can really change any of this. It comes away pretty clean. It's time for my PanPastel, and I bring my soft PanPastel tool on to the paper here, and I start at the bottom of this piece where the darkest shades of grey are situated and just bringing it up slowly. I think this exercise is quite brilliant in a way that it stops me from looking at this too much as a shoulder, and it brings me into viewing this piece of the puzzle more in depth and looking at the individual shades of grey and the shapes these shades create. Placing in some darks around the shoulder here, really trying to get it facing the right direction and just getting it in the right place. Adding a little bit of shade in around the chest and towards the back of the arm here, getting that value in. I'm actually about to make a mistake here in that you see me adding this dark and I'm taking a dark tone right up to the top. And when it comes later in this video and I put this piece into the puzzle to see how it holds up, it becomes very clear that I've brought the shade, that the tone up a little bit too dark up at the top of the shoulder. If you look all the way from the left to the right, there is a lightning coming right across the shoulder, not to be forgotten, which I do, and I will fix that later on. But just bringing your attention to it here in order to save you making the same mistake as I do. I don't know if you have watched any of Matt Charcoal's videos, but I love watching him work. I've noticed that he will often do quite a bit of work and then he'll suddenly just go over the whole thing and add some tone and take a lot of the highlights out and just blending the whole thing. And I've noticed that being a bit rough with your drawing sometimes like that, it just takes the edge of the contrast out. And I think that putting too much contrast in at the beginning is quite an easy mistake to make when you first begin to draw expressively with charcoal. And I think it was noticing this mistake in my own work that made me decide to do this exercise, to really look at the full variety of tones and just get all of those half tones of grey added into your picture. That really brings life to your expressive work, I think. And then once you start becoming aware of the really soft shades in the bright bits as well, I think you really start noticing a difference in your expressive work. Bringing my brush back in with some of this graphite dust and just working in these highlights, kind of demonstrating what I was just talking about, and just noticing that even though at first glance it kind of looks like it's just bright white over here, but I was just trying to get a bit more of that transition in the lights. But yeah, just sharpening up a little bit of this little corner of dark that just describes where the neck begins, right at the collarbone, where the collarbone meets the neck. And here is the little highlight on the shoulder there. But as you can see, I'm still kind of ignoring the fact that I have shaded the top a little bit too dark, and looking at other parts of the picture, focusing a bit more on the highlight here on the shoulder. Getting a little bit of the highlight as it just moves from the shoulder across into the chest. Now also, everything in this picture is really soft, so that's what I'm using a brush for here, to just get those really rounded shapes. There's no hard lines, and I'm just working in everything that I'm adding into this picture and just getting that everything soft and fluid. These tiny little shadowy bits around the collarbone, I need them to be kind of positioned carefully in the right place. Just using a regular eraser for some of the highlights that I can see in the brighter areas. But again, always softening around the edge of it. Now I'm just turning my attention to some of the darker parts of the picture, some of the darker parts of this puzzle piece, and just bringing that down a bit of a tone down towards the bottom of the picture. And again, now I can see that I'm just working on all of the transitioning to make it really translate as tone, as value, as shade, and not just as I think if you don't get those smooth transitions in, it can sometimes look as if your figure that you're drawing is just a bit mucky or dirty or textured in an unwanted way. But I do love a bit of texture if it's intentional though. My blend and stump will just help me get these faint shades going in to just mark up that collarbone that is connecting the shoulder to the neck. And I just keep coming in, softening everything I do with my brush, and just kind of, I'm not using any PanPastel or any graphite powder with the brush here. I'm just using it to just soften the edges and make it flow, the shades flow in and out of each other. Just noticing it's a bit dark over here where the arm meets the shoulder blade. There's It's all about tweaking things at the moment. Just noticing that tiny little triangle that just shows that she is wearing a top down here, and getting a little bit of shade into that corner as well. So this is where I'm not really looking at the reference at the moment. You can see I'm even darkening at the top a little bit more, and that's where it kind of, when it comes to putting this puzzle piece into the picture, that creates quite a sharp line in the picture that I will need to just correct a little bit. So as you can see, time to check my piece against the original picture. And there's a bit of an obvious mistake that I can't help but just touching up a little bit here. I think I'm ready to move on to my next piece. That's it for today's exercise. I hope you'll be back to do the rest together. A like and subscribe is always appreciated. And thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.